On News Channel 5 Plus, Braden Boucek, the Vice President of Legal Affairs for the Beacon Center, is with me right now to talk about how they're really trying to intervene with the lawsuit from Davidson County and Shelby County against ESA. And I know we have Mary. Mary's back, who called. Mary, thanks for calling again. What would you like to say?
Yes, I just wanted to tell him that I didn't want to take taxpayers' money to send my children to private school. He turned it around on me, and what he stands for is a bunch of poppycock. I wouldn't have taken that money. My point is, if people want to send their children to a private school, they need to find the funds and the means to do it.
All right, Mary, thank you. What's your response?
Well, I guess I'm a little bit confused. Mary's already getting taxpayer funds to send her kids to public school, as is every parent of a public school child. The question is not, are we going to spend taxpayer dollars educating children in public schools? The question is, where should parents be able to control where that money goes, or should politicians and bureaucrats? Now, what Mary had was the ability to exit because she worked her butt off, and I'm really proud of her for doing it. But not every family, not every parent has the financial wherewithal to do it. And all this does is take school choice, which we already have for parents that can afford it, and allows people to do it anyway. But the whole idea that you're taking taxpayer funds, you already have taxpayer funds allocated to educating school children. It's just a matter where they go.
How often do you hear from folks who oppose what you're trying to do? Since I know the announcement from you guys just was recent, but I'm assuming you're so used to fielding, I guess, opposing opinions.
Yes. Well, it's a group that's small but loud. One of the really encouraging things about school choice is where the polling is. People overwhelmingly support the idea that parents should be in charge of where their children go to school. And it's really one of those things that in this day and age of deep partisanship that's incredibly heartening, because it cuts across partisan lines, it cuts across demographic lines, and it's just a very diverse coalition that supports the idea. And you know, I think that there's certainly a lot of politicians that could make a lot of hay out of forming together a non-traditional coalition out of this.
Do you hear from a lot of teachers?
We certainly do, though. You know, a lot of teachers, it's less the teachers and more the administrators who fear what it's going to do to their program. I think a lot of teachers understand that giving parents control is in fact a good thing, and giving when you give parents choice, that puts pressure on the schools to be better performers. And if you're a good teacher, which a lot of our educators are, then once the schools start to feel like they have to compete for their students, that rewards the teachers who are the most innovative, most creative, and care the most about their students.
Do you think this should be a statewide thing?
Personally, I think that this should be a universal thing, but that's my personal opinion, and that's what I'm speaking in only. I can tell you that I am a parent of 2 school-age children. They're in the best school district in the state, and if somebody offered me access to this program, I would not hesitate to take it.
All right, let's go to the line. Hey, Joe, thanks for calling. What's your question or comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment, and I do have a question.
Okay.
We have a whole Department of Education in Washington, D.C. that's funded by our tax dollars. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right. So, with that being said, why isn't anybody contacting them on the way they should spend their money? It's unfortunate that I think they're budgeted like $68 billion. And I think last year, or the year before, they actually put $128 billion other dollars into post-secondary education. Why aren't we doing anything for the younger children that are in grades, K through 12? I don't know why nobody's talking about this. It's confusing to me. Why isn't anybody talking about that and going to the Department of Education and demanding that they fund these things, that they spend that money on the K through 12 instead of spending it on post-secondary education? I'd like your comment on that. Thank you.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think that there's definitely a ton of room for innovation at the federal level. Education is traditionally, however, a state and local issue. The DOE is a relative latecomer to the party. Now, having said that, they've definitely bigfooted a lot of state and local educational institutions, and so I totally commend the sentiment that he had about needing to see some reform at the federal level. Now, the educational savings accounts we're talking about are something that exist at the state level, and it's not within the ability of state lawmakers to do anything to prompt federal the federal departments to act any differently. Now, I know that we do have Betsy DeVos, who's Secretary of Education now, and she's been a lifelong champion of school choice, and so I do think there have been some positive developments at the federal level, but you know, that's just the beginning, and I do think it's going to be a long struggle.
Gosh, I think you mentioning DeVos, we might get more calls now. Can we compare, I believe, is it Arizona? Is there another state that has a similar program, and how is that working?
Well, so a lot of states have school choice, a lot of states have vouchers. The only other state with a really robust ESA program that's worth talking about is Arizona. And Arizona's got a program that's a few years old, and it's very similar in the sense that it gives a lot of the educational flexibility that parents have here. And I think that program's going great. I mean, at the end of the day, the best metric for school choice working is that parents are using it, right? I mean, the best judge of whether an educational program is working for their child is the mother. It's either going to be mothers deciding this is working great for my child, or it's politicians and bureaucrats.
What the parents you are representing, if you think they could say something right now to our viewers, what do you think they could say?
Oh, I'm sure that they would say, please give me the liberty to do what's best for my child. I mean, both of these mothers see the educational savings account program as a literal lifeline. They're both mothers who are working very, very hard to do right by their kids. Both of these are hardworking single moms. And when they saw something like the educational savings account program that gave them the ability to send their kids to a top-notch private school like Lighthouse, that is just like a life-saving intervention. And so the lawsuit for them is just absolutely crushing. It's like somebody pulling a life jacket away from them when they're stranded in the water.
The ESA, how do I say this? Where the idea of you have Faison, the lawmaker, now regretting signing this because of how, I guess, the bidding, how it was only went into one, and there wasn't really a bidding war for it. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I mean, I don't know enough about it. I don't think anybody really does. At this point in time, it's there have been some allegations thrown out there about this stuff. None of that goes to whether or not the educational savings account program is a good thing or a life-saving thing for these parents. We can always administer programs better, but we're just going to have to wait and see for more facts to come out about whether or not some of the innuendo about how the program is administered is valid or not. But one thing is clear, that the one thing we should do is insist that this program should be available so parents can control and direct the education of their child.
You know, that caller said regarding K through 12 education, to me what's so interesting, like you said, it's really how education work is really dictated by the state, and it's different obviously among other states, but it really is to me even how teachers teach kids how to read. It's just so different from other states, and the idea that stats coming out that people who graduate, they're underprepared for math and reading. For you as a parent, is that something that you're just cognitive about, or knowing the stats of, at least here in Tennessee?
Yes, I'm absolutely cognizant about it. I mean, you know, to take a step back though, you know, you make a good point. The way we're educating our kids at a fundamental level is the way that we've been educating kids since 1950. I mean, in what other area do we think that there's not room to innovate from the way things were doing things in 1950? And you know, a lot of people in professional settings, myself included, when we do continuing legal education or my wife gets training at her work, nobody puts you in a room and lectures you the way that they used to. There's so many other ways to do better forms of cognitive learning that get better results. And we need to be open to those forms of innovation and not just try and ram everything from a box that we invented in the 1950s. No, I certainly am cognizant about testing. And one of the things I would say is one of our big challenges in public schools has been that there has been this relentless fixation on testing. And so whereas school choice used to appeal to people who are in quote unquote failing school districts, we ought to think about the fact that there's a whole new generation of parents who are frustrated with schools, even high performing schools, because of the relentless fixation on testing, which teaches your kids how to pass a test, but not how to actually learn anything.
What do your kids say when they when you see their homework or their classwork? How do you see it differently than they're learning from it?
Well, let me say this. My kids are actually really good examples of what I'm talking about. Both of my kids were in public schools. One of my child was having difficulty. The other one was soaring. We took the child who was having difficulty out. We placed him in a private school. Now he's soaring. But two child, same home, same school. It was a fit for one and not the other. And that's the point, is that every child is different and you've got to tailor your educational solution to what those child are. Look, we're fortunate enough that we have school choice. No one can take that away from us because we would just elect to send our kids to private schools and sacrifice, but not everybody has it. And I think that one of the things that's just great about this program is it is starting to give those opportunities to everybody.
Perfect. Again, we'll continue this topic when we return from the break. 615-737+. Don't hesitate to call or leave us a question. We'll be back.